Half of this video will be about me, half of it will be about why I hate Ginny and Georgia. Hey, Emmy. Hey, Emmy. Okay. I have a kitten, and she has chosen to play with her loudest toy right now. She was asleep when I set up the camera, and now she's not asleep anymore. So, my name is Gabby. I do a lot of things, and explaining the things that I do and who I am and what it is I want to do with my life is the reason I'm in therapy, because, okay, Imogen, I love my cat, by the way. They didn't have any kitten tags at the pet store today, so I got her a dog one. I think it suits her. What were we talking about? The other reason I'm in therapy. The title I've given myself is multimedia creative. What that means is, well, I guess we could go in order. The first title I would have claimed is dancer. I danced pretty seriously throughout high school, and then I went to college for dance, and then I dropped out of college for dance, and I think I would have called myself a dancer specifically until 2020. In 2020, we were not dancing in person. I took my first acting class online. 4 weeks on camera, Meisner-based training. That really sparked a light in me, and then I ended up in a 1.5 years of training. It started online, and then we moved to in-person. Anyway, signed with an agency in 2019, I think. 2018 or 2019. Fresh out of my freshman year of college, my only year of college. I got to do some TV and film work for dance, and then I booked my first commercial for acting, Smile Direct Club. And I was like, oh, this is a career too. And I didn't know what I was doing at the time before I started taking acting classes in 2020, but I started auditioning for acting stuff 2018, 2019, you don't care. You don't care. Since then, I guess I could call myself an actor. I have also been a photographer since high school. I started out taking senior pictures, family pictures, headshots, dance shots, and then I would do these like funky concept shoots just on my own with my friends. And that has been the side hustle that has followed me throughout the years and made it possible for me to do all the other things that I love to do. Granted, I do really love photography. So we've got dance, we've got acting, we've got photography. Now, I would also call myself a writer. One of my friends from my acting class actually came up with the idea of a group that meets to share work they've written, share feedback on what they've written, and that's it. No strings attached. We're not teaching you. It's not like a class. It's not really like a workshop. It's just like community. It's like, hi, do you want to say hello? No, she wants to lay down. We called it church for a while. Just like, you come as you are, you bring what you can, or you bring nothing if you don't want to, and you just be with people. Anyways, we started that in 2023, I think. It is still going to this very day. We've had 2 showcases. We've had a dance and poetry event as well, partnered with another organization in our area called Poetry is Pretentious. And in being forced to show up as a writer, share as a writer, be in community with other writers, I guess I will call myself a writer. And also I've started doing like social media content, okay? I have always loved posting on the internet. Thus why we are here on YouTube today. YouTube and Tumblr were like the 2 that I was very myself on. Although I've been making videos since before I put them on YouTube. I was making them in Windows Movie Maker, all kinds of like mock music video type things, which is very telling for the goals that I have now. And then Tumblr was the place where I posted all of my poems and songs and like deep dark secrets and stuff. Smart girl. Posting my personal thoughts on the internet instead of talking to someone about them in real life. We're still working on that. We're in therapy for that too. I've been very lucky to partner with some brands that I really love, and I'm now very interested to see how I can make this a viable part of what I do, connect it to the things that I'm passionate about, and ultimately live a life where all of these things that I love can coexist and flourish. That's the dream. Anyways, as far as YouTube goes, I've been a little bit all over the place. I've shared some vlogs, I've shared some fashion-related content. I love styling, I love getting dressed, and then sort of just the YouTuber girl lifestyle tropes and things just to kind of put myself out here and let you know that I am here too. I'm taking up space in a lot of different places, but it's because I have a lot to share and say. I hope, I think. I went on Instagram and I said, ask me anything. And I was scared when I asked that question because my DMs are scary with scary things from scary men.
Oh, it's a baby, say hi. This is Emmy.
Okay, you hate your mom. Anyways, I said ask me anything, but I never promised to answer everything. However, most of these questions are actually very respectful and good jumping off points, I think, for us to get to know each other. This is the story that I posted, and I mentioned my disdain for Ginny and Georgia. I just finished the 3rd season. We'll get to that later, okay? It is my guilty pleasure show, but I don't really get any pleasure from watching it, just frustration and anger with the show and with myself for insisting on watching it. Let's look at the questions. Sorry, I just opened Instagram. My favorite artist, Vanessa Carlton, just posted thank you to the one and only Champagne Poppy for inviting me to be part of his show and for the sweet introduction. What is she doing with Drake? Okay, I'll look into that later. Questions. Question number 1. Favorite unknown indie artist right now? Great question from my friend William Henson. My favorite unknown indie artist is William Henson. This is true because he is a great artist and also because he is a great friend. I guess that's another thing I do. I have been learning about the music industry and artist management and other music related stuff. Through him, I think I have done all of the photography and sort of like creative conceptualizing with him for his upcoming record. So I think because we're best friends, it like doesn't dawn on me that what we're creating together is technically work. It just feels like we're like building a world, which is really, really fun. So maybe it'll all sink in when the album comes out and it's like, oh my God, yeah, we actually made so much stuff. But yeah, William Henson, look him up. Speaking of unknown indie artists, question number 2 is, what is my favorite Gracie Abrams song? In putting myself and my face on the internet recently, I have been extremely flattered to receive comments about comparing to her physically, I guess. Well, not physically because I don't have abs like that, but basically just the short dark hair. And I am a fan, and my favorite song is 21. Filtering through the Ginny and there were a lot of Ginny and Georgia questions. Question number 3, do you want to get married? Maybe. I think yes. It doesn't feel like that doesn't feel like a likely thing right now. Oh my God, I got a foot question. So about getting married, I guess yes, maybe, probably, but also maybe not. Favorite Vanessa Carlton song? Well, one of my favorite Vanessa Carlton songs is called I Don't Want to Be a Bride. I relate to it really heavily. Anyway, why is Gilmore Girls the best show of all time? Thank you, finally. Okay, Gilmore Girls is nostalgic, it is funny, it is witty, you learn stuff. They make some of the most far-fetched references. The community around the show is super fun. The theme song, 12 out of 10. Lauren Graham, 12 out of 10. I think that Gilmore Girls does a fantastic job of marrying whimsy and reality, which is something I hope to do in my work, in my storytelling. And I would say storytelling is like the common thread among all the things that I love to do, and I hope to someday tell stories as effectively as Amy Sherman Palladino, especially as far as marrying whimsy and reality. What is the meaning of life? Money? In desperate need of big bucks. Got any work for a guy? I saw an advertisement for a course on writing emails, so you could always sell some nonsense like that. Inspiration for becoming a writer. Shel Silverstein. The Giving Tree has always been my favorite book. I remember my dad reading it to me. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly. And also some of the poetry collections like Falling Up. When I share poetry, a lot of times I write little ditties like that about more adult things, but with similar like rhyming patterns. And again, it's that line between whimsy and reality. So I think subconsciously that inspired me to be a writer. I also read a lot when I was a kid, which probably inspired me to be a writer. I was friends with a lot of very creative people. I was homeschooled for most of my life, and I had some really wonderful best friends. Friends that I would play pretend with, and a lot of times we would write letters. I have so many letters saved from my neighbor. We wrote a lot of letters to each other. And then me and a couple other of my friends, we were writing like a book together. So we were each writing. It was a story that, it was like a fantasy world that had, if I'm remembering correctly, fairies, mermaids, and elves. One of us was writing from the elf girl's perspective. One of us was writing from the fairies' perspective, and then the mermaid's perspective. I was the and so it was supposed to be like a same story from 3 different POVs. It was never finished, but I think we were kind of onto something. I dropped out of college and sometimes I feel like shit about it. Yeah, me too. But honestly, not that often. A lot of my education has not been very conventional. I have been homeschooled. I have gone to private school. I've gone to public school. I've gone to homeschool co-ops. I dual enrolled before I actually went to college. I went to college. I dropped out of college. I've done a lot of summer intensives for dance and a lot of other long-term training programs for acting and artist development. I'm grateful for my college experience, and I understand why college is important and why it works for so many people, but I feel so certain in my heart that it was not the right thing for me, and I have a hard time seeing a world in which it ever is the right thing for me. Like if I were to ever go back, like that's just really hard for me to imagine for the goals that I have in mind. I don't see it being the best next step. So I think if you feel shit about it, then you gotta figure out why you feel shit about it. Because when I feel shit about it, it's because of something someone else has said to me that's making me think, oh, I should feel shit about this. But then if I take a step back from that, I realize that I don't actually feel shit about it. So speaking of college, someone said, I'm so scared to start uni. Is uni college? And for all my new classes, English, Lit, and Writing. Any tips? I had an amazing English teacher, Marina Spears, when I was dual enrolled in college, in like a community college while I was still in high school. I'm just like really grateful for the materials that we read about writing and just like the questions that you are asked to ask and to explore in an English or writing class, I think are really important for life, not just like the written work itself. So if you can try to zoom out about what you're doing instead of thinking about it in terms of like specific assignments, I find that to be helpful in everything. Favorite album of the year? Favorite album this year? Well, I would say William Henson's new album, but it's not out yet, and I don't know. Well, I can't share the release date, but favorite album this year so far is gonna be Samia's new album, Bloodless. Gonna try to see her in Nashville. I listened to this album every day. Favorite shoes? That's a really hard question. I don't know. Probably my Doc Martens. I got them on Poshmark like 5 or 6 years ago because they reminded me of Rory Gilmore, and I hunted for shoes that reminded me of the shoes she wears like when she's at Chilton. And I found these and they are not identical at all. I don't know what I was thinking, but I do love them and they have held up so well, and they were very well loved when I got them. So what makes you the most self-conscious and how do you get through it trying to learn? I'm also trying to learn. That's why I'm in therapy. One thing about me is that everything makes me self-conscious, like the way that my voice almost cracked just then, that made me self-conscious. I would say being perceived, but it's really not that because I have an innate desire to be perceived, otherwise I would not put myself all over the internet. Being misunderstood, or even just the potential for being misunderstood, makes me very self-conscious. Or putting myself out there and then possibility that I may not belong, or that the way I put myself out may not be received well or kindly, that makes me really self-conscious. How do I get through it? I'm trying to figure that out. When I journal, and I journal every morning, I do my morning pages because of the Artist Way I've been doing. I started the Artist Way in 2021. I've done it like 3 or 4 times since then. I try to do the morning pages as consistently as possible. Pretty much every day when I write them, at some point I have to just write, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing, until I think of something else to write. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing when it comes to like anxious thoughts. I think there's another question about anxiety. Hang on. Do you get more anxious knowing everyone has anxiety and you're alone in your bubble of it? I think knowing that everyone else has anxiety of some kind makes me feel less alone. But when I am stuck in my bubble, I'm stuck by myself, or I'm stuck in like a downward spiral, this is definitely not a solution. This is something I'm actively trying to work on because I have moments where I really can't get through it and I just kind of like act out or try to do something to like make how I'm feeling feel even worse. But a separation tactic that I have picked up is like picking a drawer and reorganizing it. Taking everything out and folding it all over again. If I'm like really stressed and I just need to like step away from a situation so that I don't do some grand, bad, hurtful thing to cope with how bad I'm already feeling, I will fold my socks. I will go through my shirt drawer. I will pick up everything off my floor. And I'm not a very tidy person. I'm like a type C person. I do think that that helps though. How do you pronounce the read in read receipts? So when I'm reading that in my head, I'm thinking read receipts. When I say it out loud, like if I was gonna read it, I would say read receipts because I read it. They're not for reading. I read them. Did you watch Mrs. Maisel? Yes. Gilmore Girls is my all-time favorite show. I think that Maisel is an outstanding show. It is totally different than Gilmore Girls, which is why I'm hesitant to say that it is objectively better. I think that Gilmore is perfect for what Gilmore Girls is, a Warner Brothers CW teen drama, weekly drama show from the early 2000s. And Maisel exists in the streaming media world where there's just a lot more freedom, I think. I think that Maisel is like a very rare and wonderful thing. I feel like that's where Amy Sherman-Palladino really like hit her stride, knocked it out of the park. So yes, I watched it and I loved it. To hinge or not to hinge? That is the question. For me, it's gonna be a not to hinge. I have hinged before. Really not necessarily an all bad experience, but what I will say from watching people use Hinge, it is still a person by person case. So you might find the love of your life on Hinge, and that has everything to do with who you are and who they are, and nothing to do with Hinge. Hinge is just the path you took to meet them, but you could meet someone that great in your college class or at the grocery store, theoretically, right? And in the same way that you meet someone on Hinge who goes on to break your heart, so could be the same if you were like set up with someone who seemed really great and then it turned out they weren't. Like, it just, I think dating has its upsides and downsides no matter which way, and I don't want to do it on my phone. What are some of your top favorite movies and actors? Somebody else asked my favorite actor and somebody else asked my favorite movie. So my favorite movie is The Parent Trap, but that's like a nostalgia thing. So my other favorite movie is La La Land, and I love Emma Stone, one of my favorite actresses. I love Lauren Graham, Uzo Aduba, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Fleabag is one of my favorite shows of all time. That's really tough. I can't think off the top of my head, and also I tend to love series more than I do movies. Am I going anywhere fun this summer? Yes, I'm going to New York in a couple weeks. I'm very excited about that. I also just came back from Mexico. Mexico vlog is coming soon. How do I get to know myself? There are so many ways, but I would say if you want a fast track way, the artist way. Do you have a favorite movie soundtrack that goes with your style of dance? No, but I do have a favorite movie soundtrack, Coraline. Hands down. What is your most important piece of advice for an up-and-coming actor? Train, not just to learn, but also to build community. Learn about the casting process so that you don't overthink the auditioning process too much. I've found it really helpful to understand all of the elements that come into play with bringing a story to life. Whether it is a commercial, whether it is a movie or a series or a passion project, it takes a lot of work. It involves a lot of input from a lot of different people. And knowing that, especially for like big productions like TV and film, I try my very best to take the work that I do seriously as an actor. That's been really difficult for me because I've learned that in diminishing my lack of confidence for the work that I'm doing feeds into a disrespect for the work that I'm doing, because if I can't respect myself for doing it, then I don't really respect what I'm doing, you know? So in learning about like big picture, what goes into making these shows and movies happen, I realized that the self-tape that I am submitting, while it is important, whether or not I book that project based on that self-tape, that version of myself that I'm bringing to the table, that I am going to work hard on and be proud of, is not a marker of my self-worth, because as long as I show up as myself and bring what I have to bring to the table within the framework of the instructions and deadlines that I'm given, then I have done the job. That is a job in itself. If you book it, that's another job, but showing up is also a job. That was convoluted, sorry. How do you stay active and positive? I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. I love podcasts that are like, have a positive spin to them. Like, I'm obsessed with Good Hang with Amy Poehler. Taking in from other people helps me to have some perspective about myself and my life, which tends to help me think a little bit more positively. What is my dream role? Again, this is where the work of taking myself seriously comes into play, because I don't think about this a lot, because I don't think that I'm ever going to book my dream role. But that's not how we think about these things. So my dream role would be, it could be a movie or a series or a limited series, whatever, but to be part of a core cast of a family, like a tight-knit family. Some of my favorite shows include Gilmore Girls, Parenthood, Modern Family, Schitt's Creek, The Office, which I would consider The Office to be, they're a family. To be in an ensemble like that, in something where you get to, like, especially for a series, I think I would love to be part of a series because of that connection and the time that you get to like build a connection with people. I think it would be so fun to like build those relationships, have that rich like world that you've made up and built together. I used to, when I was little, we would play Pretend Life, and it was just this like alternate universe life that me and my brother and my sister came up with, and we just played pretend. We just played pretend all the time. And that's what you like, it's based in reality, but it's play, and that's really exciting to me. So I would love to just be part of a cast like that, where you get to explore all these different like circumstances and scenarios or whatever, but together. Okay, one last question and then I'll talk about Ginny and Georgia. What goes through your mind when you act? Is it conscious action or full immersion or both? I'm not fully sure I understand the question, but I feel like what goes through my mind when I'm acting in a scene versus like most of the recent work I've done has been commercial work, and that's kind of different. A different acting muscle, I would say, but also kind of not really. Actually, whoa, something just clicked for me. So what I was going to say, my hope is that the thoughts that I am thinking are rooted in the reality of whatever it is I'm doing in that scene. So if I am acting, I don't even like the word acting. If I am in a scene where I am making dinner, there's also a conversation that happens with somebody, I hope, this is what I'm working on as an actor. My goal would be to be thinking about the dinner that I am making, like very actively. And then when that other person becomes part of I'm making dinner, I hope that then I am thinking about what they are telling me, as I would in real life if I was making dinner and then somebody interrupted me. And either I'm trying to make dinner and trying to listen to them, or I have to stop, or I forget about making dinner and I'm listening to them. I hope to be very active when I am acting. Acting is active. of. Okay, here we go. Why do you hate Ginny and Georgia? How do you feel about Georgia
Why
as a
do you hate
character?
Ginny
Are
and
you a
Georgia?
fan?
Why do you hate
What?
Georgia?
Why do you hate Ginny and Georgia? Season 3 is so good.
Hate Ginny and Georgia.
Ginny and Georgia.
Why?
Explain yourself. I will gladly explain myself. I find it to be exhausting to watch. I do not find the characters likable. Do not find, and like I said, I love a show with like a community and a believable, like, this is where these people live, even if, like Gilmore Girls, it's whimsical and a little out of the box and not like totally grounded in reality. Because if we wanted to see something that was totally real, we would just like stare out the window. That's not why we watch TV. But this I find, okay, I just feel like the show is trying so hard to be something, and I feel like I can see the show while I am watching it try so hard to be something. I find the comparisons to Gilmore Girls insane. What I do like about it is the tropiness of it all. Like, it feels like it's trying to do a lot of things and be a lot of different shows, okay? Like, I was caught off guard with all of the crime stuff in Georgia's life. And out of Ginny and Georgia, I do much prefer Georgia. Ginny is one of my least favorite characters in TV ever. I have such a hard time having sympathy for her, and I don't know why. I really don't know. Because when I think about it objectively, I feel like I really should feel bad for her. If I feel bad for anyone, it's definitely Austin. But it just does not have the small town charm. It doesn't have the small town mystery of like Pretty Little Liars. It also doesn't have, like, in Gossip Girl, we're looking at a lot of very flawed characters, right? And they go so far down the like entitled and just over the top, completely narcissistic, like elitist world of these people, that because we've fully committed to that, this is how these people are, I can be invested in their drama. I can feel empathy for them, even though everything. With Ginny and Georgia, I just don't feel like it goes fully in any direction enough for me to be like, yes, I genuinely like the show. I'm on board with it. It feels like it's just a lot of stuff, and there are bits and pieces that people probably really like, and maybe it's just not in my like age demographic. I don't know. Maybe I would have really liked the show if I had seen it at a different point in my life, but it's one of those, like, I love to hate it. I just love to hate, like, when the new season came out, I was like, oh, I hate the show, and I have to watch it. It's very similar to how I feel about The Summer I Turned Pretty, because, oh, I cannot stand those characters. But I love the world of The Summer I Turned Pretty. Like, Ginny and Georgia is just not, like, cinematic enough. The soundtrack drives me crazy. It's not funny. There were a couple moments where I got a little teary, but I think that's because I'm about to start my period. I don't know. I mean, it is nothing like Gilmore Girls. You cannot convince me that it is like Gilmore Girls in any way, except for, like, the teen pregnancy stuff. But will I watch season 4? Yeah, probably I will. Anyways, we are very sleepy here, so I think that's the end of this video. But if you watch this, thanks for watching. I would love to know what I could post here, because if not, I'm just gonna share whatever I feel like sharing. So anyways, that's all. Good night. Mwah.